Okay. So today's lesson, let's see who's here. I want to say, well, that's Lynn Johnson, but that's not, is that another Lynn Johnson, I guess? And
No, it's
Mara?
no, that's Lynn. We have two Lyns.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And then there's Lynn Johnson.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
just don't do my camera because of the very same reason. I don't want to use up my bandwidth and have it go out.
Going on with mine too. Yeah. And I'm not as talented in the computer department as a lot of people.
Hi, Rafi.
Anyway, when Doug asked me, I said, my favorite lesson is I rest in God. And that is a lesson that I've used throughout the whole process. And I think I have to say I got that from Regina when she was with us in, years ago. She, I came in and had no clue what the course was saying. And Holy Spirit told her, rest, accept, and trust. And that was her guidance. And I took it as my own guidance. And that's pretty much it's all we have to do to get to the truth. Just rest in it. And acceptance is not fighting with it. And sometimes, I heard Cindy sharing tonight, like how we get like jerked out of it. But as long as we have the intention to do this stuff, it does work. Somebody called me today and asked me, do I think that the course helped me? I said, I think it changed my life, in so many ways. It really did. There was like, I had an insane ego. So, and, things do drop away. And for this character, a lot has dropped away. So that's a good thing. What I want to ask anybody here is that if we could talk about this being a sharing rather than Sharon just leading it, because I love that. I love the community sharing that we can do here on here. And what does rest in God mean? But I'm going to read it, and what I found that's so helpful in rest in God is you're going within, and that's where you are.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, Sharon, it's only 6.5 minutes and you came in afterwards, but that was the topic of the meeting we just left. And if you want me to pull up that 6.5 minutes.
Yeah, you're so good. I would love you to do that because I want it to be interactive. It's not about me, it's about all of us.
So that's
a good one.
Teaching. All right, I'll have it ready for you. You just tell me when and we'll listen to it again.
There's not many of, I don't know, there could be people like that, but listen to way back then. I'm not sure because I could never, back in those days we still are on Pal Talk. Lynn, where's Lynn Johnson? Where did she go? Oh, there she is. Okay. Yeah, Lynn she still has something on every Thursday. So they're still running Pal Talk. But the thing that I love about the Course in Miracles, and I'll say NTI is the same for me, is that a lot of my friends that are on this process didn't start with this. So they don't know, like, their thing is like, if you're not there, how can you wake up? There's no you. And we always know that when we read the course, right? At no time do we exist. But what's waking up? And the only thing is wakefulness, the space, the awareness, love's presence is waking up, right? So we ask for rest today and quietness, unshaken by the world's appearances. We ask for peace and stillness in the midst of all the turmoil born of clashing dreams. We ask for safety and for happiness, although we seem to look on danger and on sorrow. And we have the thought that will answer our asking with what we request. That's the whole thing. Like, what's going on in this world, this crazy world, just rest. Because it's just projection. We're all projecting our own story all the time. I rest in God. This thought will bring to you the rest and quiet, peace and stillness, and the safety and the happiness you seek. I rest in God. That's where we are. This is consciousness's domain. We're still in God. This thought has power to wake the sleeping truth in you, whose vision sees beyond appearances to that same truth in everyone and everything there is. Here is the end of suffering for all the world. And everyone whoever came and yet will come to linger for a while. Here is the thought in which the Son of God is born again to recognize himself. I rest in God, completely undismayed. This thought will carry you through storms and strife, past misery and pain, past loss and death, and onward to the certainty of God. There is no suffering it cannot heal. There is no problem that it cannot solve, and no appearance but will turn to truth before the eyes of you who rest in God. This is the day of peace. You rest in God, and while the world is torn by winds of hate, your rest remains completely undisturbed. Yours is the rest of truth. Appearances cannot intrude on you. You call to all to join you in your rest, and they will hear and come to you because you rest in God. They will not hear another voice than yours because you gave your voice to God, and now you rest in him and let him speak through you. In him you have no cares and no concerns, no burdens, no anxiety, no pain, no fear of future, no past regrets. In timelessness you rest. While time goes by without its touch upon you, for your rest can never change in any way at all. You rest today, and as you close your eyes, sink into the stillness. Let these periods of rest and respite reassure your mind that all its frantic fantasies were but the dreams of fever that has passed away. Let it be still and thankfully accept its healing. No more fearful dreams will come now that you rest in God. Take time today to slip away from dreams and into peace. Each hour that you take your rest today, a tired mind is suddenly made glad. A bird with broken wings begins to sing. A stream long dry begins to flow again. The world is born again each time you rest. And hourly remember that you came to bring the peace of God into the world, that it might take its rest along with you. With each 5 minutes that you rest today, the world is nearer waking, and when the rest will be the only thing there is, comes closer to all worn and tired minds, too weary now to go their way home. And they will hear the bird begin to sing and see the stream begin to flow again. With hope reborn and energy restored, to walk with lightened steps along the road that suddenly seems easy as they go. You rest within the peace of God today and call upon your brothers from your rest to draw them to their rest along with you. You will be faithful to your trust today, forgetting no one, bringing everyone into the boundless circle of your peace, the holy sanctuary where you rest. Open the temple doors and let them come from far across the world and near as well. Your distant closest friends, bid them all enter here and rest, to take his rest and offer it to you. We rest together here, for thus our rest is made complete. And what we give today, we have received already. Time is not the guardian of what we give today. We give to those unborn, those passed by, to every thought of God, and to the mind in which these thoughts were born and where they rest. And we remind them of their resting place. Each time we tell ourselves, I rest in God. I was brought up in the Jewish religion, and the way the conditioning in this mind was always like, if you even mentioned anything, my grandmother was Yiddish, and they would, if I talked about death, it was poo poo, or it was it was fear. It was all fear, and that's religion. And now I automatically just close my eyes and rest in the truth of who we are. We haven't left. This body is just consciousness living through me. But, and somebody also asked me today about, the fact that consciousness is, what is it? Well, in God, we're not conscious of another. There's just oneness. But in this, we are all together. And I think it's an amazing opportunity that I am more than grateful. I've heard you, Lynn Artino, talk about how it's changed your life, this book. Yeah, it does. It's not for everyone, and I get that, but it's a book that certainly made my life, different in every which way. And I want to ask, Cindy's going to play that, and then I'm going to shut my screen off for a minute while I listen. And then, we can talk about what it's done for you to rest in God, because rest in God is really all we're really doing. We think we're doing a lot, but the real us is just there in God. So there
You
we
ready?
go.
All right, here we go.
It looks like I was meditating on lesson 346. Today the peace of God envelops me. And as I did, these words began to come, and so I had to grab my notebook and write them down. Let your mind rest today. Remember that it is not your role to struggle. To struggle is to attempt to go it alone, using your own individual power. To struggle is to let the ego guide you on your spiritual path. To struggle is a mistake, and to mistakenly walk the wrong path. And what is meant by wrong path here? Because we have talked about that we are all the free Son of God, and that you can choose to do anything you want. You can choose any path, and that is absolutely true. So when Holy Spirit says wrong path here, really he's not talking about a path that would be truly wrong. It's just, again, this Holy Spirit is very aware of what I want. And so it would be a wrong path in that it would not be in harmony with what I truly want. I would be out of harmony with myself. So that's what he means. It isn't the path I really want. In that way, it's a wrong path. But there are no true wrong paths. We're the free Son of God, and we can experience anything we want to experience. So to struggle is to let the ego guide you on your spiritual path. To struggle is a mistake, and to mistakenly walk the wrong path. The way to God is a peaceful path. It is the way of rest, where all things seem to be done for you, because you have been willing not to struggle. And you are willing not to struggle for one reason, because you have chosen a different purpose, a purpose that knows no struggle. It sees no forces to struggle against, and desires no separation to struggle for. It has let the struggle go because it is the purpose of accepting what is as it is. It is the purpose of remembering truth, and truth can only be remembered when struggle is let go. And this is something else that came up in my conversation with Laurent on the phone today, because again, we understand why we're together, and certainly we understand that a big part of what we're going to be doing together is letting go of the ego. Looking at what comes up and letting go of the ego. And, as we were talking about that, a real realization came into my mind that I really don't know how to let go of the ego. I don't know how. I don't know what to do. And the next thought that came into my mind after I realized I do not know how, I don't know what to do, was just a thought of trust. It was just a trust that that was okay, because Holy Spirit is going to guide us every step of the way, and that I didn't need to know how, or I didn't need to know what to do. I just needed to stay in a place of trust. And that seems to be what this message is saying as well. Today, the peace of God envelops me, is asking us to let go of the struggle. And I think what happens sometimes when we want to let go of the ego is that we allow the ego to assist us in that, which of course is never going to work. But you know, the ego gets in there by telling us that something is wrong. The ego tells us something is wrong because we're listening to the ego. The ego wants us to be guilty, so it tells us we're guilty even for listening to it. It tells us we're guilty even for listening to it, and so therefore there's something that we have to fix because there's something wrong, and it's willing to get in there and analyze this and analyze that and try and figure this out. But what happens if you're listening to the ego in the quote letting go process, which is definitely not letting go at all, you know it because you feel that efforting, you feel that struggle, you could just feel it. And so that's why this message is so important, because it's telling us, you know, that we need do nothing, that, you know, we need to rest and we need to trust, and that Holy Spirit is going to lead us every step of the way. You know, and again, that was a decision that I made in the mind today when I realized I don't know how to let go of the ego. I probably could have also chosen fear. I could have chosen to freak out and to decide that I need to figure this out, that I need to go read a bunch of books and learn how to let go of the ego. But you can see how that would have been choosing the energy of fear. That actually would have been following the ego into the idea of letting go of the ego, which is certainly not going to work. So simply by being okay with the idea that I don't know how to let go of the ego, and just trusting that Holy Spirit's going to lead me every step of the way, that was the best decision that I could have made in the moment. And this writing confirms that. So I'm really grateful to see this confirmation today. It's wonderful how Holy Spirit gives me everything just as I need it. So let me read this one more time. Let your mind rest today. Remember that it is not your role to struggle. To struggle is to attempt to go it alone, using your own individual power. To struggle is to let the ego guide you on your spiritual path. To struggle is a mistake, and to mistakenly walk the wrong path. The way to God is a peaceful path. It is the way of rest, where all things seem to be done for you because you have been willing not to struggle. I'm going to read that sentence again because I love it. The way to God is a peaceful path. It is the way of rest, where all things seem to be done for you because you have been willing not to struggle. And you are willing not to struggle for one reason, because you have chosen a different purpose, a purpose that knows no struggle. It sees no forces to struggle against and desires no separation to struggle for. It has let the struggle go because it is the purpose of accepting what is as it is. It is the purpose of remembering truth, and truth can only be remembered when the struggle is let go. Thank
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I want to make a quick note. If my memory serves me correctly, it said that was May 5, May 8th, something like that, of 2005. I believe that was her very first teacher, because I think she started in May of 2005. So that must have been her very first teacher.
Yeah, I wasn't there then. I
No.
don't, I didn't start till 2000. Yeah.
I was definitely there, and I think she started in May. So that was her first teaching, which is amazing. She said she came across the Course in Miracles in 2004 or something like that.
Well, Sarah would have been there too, because she was with you, I guess. Yeah, you knew her too.
Yeah. It was in 2005 that she started.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is that we don't have to do anything except immerse ourselves in the space. And what I've done is listen either to a teacher or to the course or read it and just be willing. You know, it's about willingness and, you know, it's willingness or resistance. So tell me what you think is rest in God. How does that, is that one of your favorite lessons? I mean, I know you have a lot of them.
109 is on my wall in my bedroom. It's the only lesson and I tell everybody, I do a lot of counseling. I don't do a lot of but that's the go-to lesson 109, because that's the only thing you really have to do is to let go and let God. And that's the one lesson that says that. I was going to ask you if you would, instead of reading the whole lesson, could you pick one paragraph that speaks to you directly and share it slowly? Share it slowly, because you did.
Fast. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I just, you know, all right. And remember, the I is the I. Rest in God. This thought will bring to you the rest and quiet peace and stillness, and the safety and the happiness you seek. I rest in God. This thought has power to wake the sleeping truth in you, whose vision sees beyond appearances to that same truth in everyone and everything there is. Here is the end of suffering for all the world. And everyone who ever came and yet will come to linger for a while. Here is the thought in which the Son of God is born again to recognize himself. Just the quietness, the silence. Where'd you go, Dub? Did you disappear?
All right, let
The
me
way it looks great.
hold on.
I'm going to go around the room and ask, you know, just, you know, this is a lesson that you can use if you listen to what Regina, that guidance that she got from the Holy Spirit is simply just telling us we need do nothing.
This is the logo for One Mind Foundation, the logo. I rest in God, lesson 109. The Easter lily was a picture taken by a woman who was a photographer in Arizona, or maybe it's in New Mexico. She happened to attend our Monday night meeting on forgiveness. So I use her picture for One Mind's logo.
Yeah.
I rest in God.
Well, it's beautiful. You know, it's funny because you know, Dove stayed with one teaching and I didn't. I went all over the map, and came back to the course. I mean, you know, actually what I, in my process, I opened up to everything. And a lot of that has to do with the way Regina taught, because she brought every teacher in, you know, in those days she would bring, you know, every teacher in. So I kind of like became interested in it, but I've come back to the course because that's my guidance. But even when I went to other teachings, it was still my guidance because I was always in the right place at the right time. Even when I hurt, and I did hurt. Okay, Lynn Johnson, not the Lynn Johnson here. We have two Lynn Johnsons. Lynn from ACIM Gather, yes. Go ahead, Lynn.
I think I'm the only Lynn Johnson here.
Oh, did she? No, she's right here, honey. Look right under you. There's a Lynn Johnson.
There is.
What? Oh my goodness.
No, that's what I was.
Myrna. It's our wonderful
Yeah,
Myrna.
that's Myrna Scholar. You had me under the wrong name, but I accepted it anyway. I figured nobody would notice.
Oh, that's very funny. It's cracking me
What-
up.
Name? What's your name? No, your name's not Lynn?
No, it's
No, my
Myrna.
name is Myrna.
Oh, okay, Myrna. All right, Lynn.
That's pretty funny. So yeah, so for years and years and years, I've worn an armband that is lesson 109. I rest in God.
Yeah.
That is the, it's kind of the penultimate lesson there. And what occurred to me, and of course, because I started out, I had a great teacher. I was a Buddhist. I had one of the greatest teachers that's ever lived, and still is. I mean, still is my teacher. Doesn't matter. Exactly what he said is exactly the same thing A Course in Miracles says. I was a Baha'i for many years, with some exceptions. Very same thing. Oneness, unity. We're all one. There's only one God. All people are equal. All that business. I've gone through all that. I've done the work, Byron Katie. I've done, all, MVC. Me, all the different stuff. Coming to recognize that I rest in God, came to recognize that there is nothing to fear and there's only trust. There's no reason to be afraid. You can absolutely rest in God because God is always there. There's no he's never let me down. God has never ever let me down. And I absolutely trust without any exception. And that's why I said, I posted on the board, I rest in God is easy for me because I'm lazy. And rest in God sees I don't have to do anything. And I don't do anything. And me, it looks like I'm doing all kinds of stuff, but I'm really doing nothing at all day long, all the time. It's crazy. And everything just seems to happen. And it's all perfect for me. So I live a perfect life. Everything is wonderful. And resting in God is the absolute only way
Right.
to be.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like you too came back to the Course because it's so simple.
And I
Whether
never left the Course. It's always been, the Course has always been my guide from the first moment I found it. I never stopped doing the Course, but I did a lot of other stuff at the same time because I recognize it's all the same.
it is all the same. The thing about the Course, though, it gives us, I guess, the way, the voice, Jesus's voice, the direction of just the different levels, and that we're still in heaven and this is consciousness. It just lays out such a beautiful blueprint of our life.
Perfect roadmap. All right, I'm muting my mic.
I wanted to say a couple things. First of all, what rests in God is spirit. I mean, the
Right.
body doesn't rest in God's spirit. And
Right.
I put up on the board, I'll put it up again. Spirit is in a state of grace forever. So when you say I rest in God, that's the same thing as I'm in heaven.
Right.
That's the exact same thing.
My way for heaven.
Yeah. Why wait for heaven means that you can rest in God now. And most people think, well, the ego thinks, well, how can I rest? I have so many things to do. And he tells you in chapter 18, section 7, I need do nothing. If you think you have to do something, that's the ego. Only the ego does. We had a session the other day. I think it was on it was the 50 Principles of Miracles, which is led by Zulma. Zulma was just here a little while ago. Oh, there she is. Zulma and Karen. And that's what came up. That you already have everything. Being and having are the same. Being and having are the same. Your being already has everything. You don't have to do anything. There's no doing in being spirit. So spirit is in a state of grace forever. Your reality is only spirit. Therefore, you are in a state of grace forever. The only thing that keeps you from doing that, from being in a state of grace, is fear. And I think I heard you mention that. It's the fear that keeps us from recognizing that we're literally in God now. Fear says, I'm really afraid of God. I'd rather be special. I'd rather be myself than rest in God. So fear is the one thing that blocks you from the love of God, the peace of God, resting in God.
And it's always about our state of mind. Like, there would be, times in my life where I'd want something, like, knew this, knew that, but it's not at all true, because it's our state of mind that's the most important thing. Nothing else. Nothing else. Cindy.
So I'm going to read my favorite part of this lesson.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Each hour that you take your rest today, a tired mind is suddenly made glad. A bird with broken wings begins to sing. A stream long dry begins to flow again. The world is born again each time you rest, and hourly remember that you came to bring the peace of God into the world, that it may take its rest along with you. Essentially, this plus what Regina was sharing, plus my understanding of the golden key and so many of the other teachings is essentially this. In any given moment, I'm either resting in truth, trusting, or I'm hanging out with ego. If I believe in any moment that there is a problem to solve, then I'm strengthening the belief in the dream and an illusion. And so all my efforting to improve Cindy's life or to solve my problems or the problems of the world are doing nothing other than strengthening the belief that there are problems to solve. And the only true way to bring the peace and the joy, the prosperity, everything I could possibly want into my life and into the lives of those I care about is to rest, to stop struggling, to step back. And it's so interesting, Sharon, because, I was raised in that Jewish household too. So even last week when I led this retreat and spent the whole week being guided by spirit, I was there, lots of things happened, but there was no efforting. It was all just beautiful and joy. I literally found guilt rising in me because I wasn't working hard enough, right? And so I've been watching that. And when our children are unhappy, or my mother is complaining, or my bank account is shrinking, there's this egoic voice in my head that I should be worried about this, right? And I have to take care of this. If I am a true student of truth, whether it's the course or anywhere where I'm taking it, and that was an interesting conversation to me too, because Doug will tell you that the course told him to put the book down because truth is truth. And if you choose and state that the truth is coming from the course and it's somehow different than other teachings, all you've done is made an idol of the course. And the course is asking you not to do that. But literally, there's only one thing in this teaching that says I need do if I want to improve Cindy's life, if I want to take care of my children, if I want to take care of my prosperity, and that's to lay the ego aside. And I do that by resting.
And you do that, because I listen to you. Sometimes I can't come into Awakening Together, so I listen on the radio, and your clarity sings very loud to me. And also devotion to this process. And what does that really mean? I mean, for me, I don't think that there's no Sharon to do anything. So when it comes, this kind of teaching comes to us, how can we do anything but just envelop it, right? Because it's like, it's the truth, and everything else isn't. Now, for me, I had to leave. I came from Philly, and now I live in a city. It'll be 19 years that I'm here in Altoona, and I had to leave because the noise from where my whole family was, I had to be by myself. And that's what I did years ago, before not knowing that I would even find this book. I was just headed just to find out who God was, and I moved here to do the 12 steps. But I have to say the course was a great present. And how I got to it was from other teachings. And to be devoted to God, I mean, can there be a better relationship? You can't do anything wrong. You can be lazy, right, Lynn? You can, for me, I had a stroke during the times that Regina was there, and I didn't have to work. I was on disability. So it was an opportunity for me to be with, actually in the morning, Dove would open the room. I think it was like usually with Prudence, and I would do that until the night. And I was the happiest I've ever been. Because when you're around what feels good, when you are, it's like I always say when, Moses sings, let my people go. That's what I felt like. I felt like, oh, thank God. Because there was so much drama in my life. And it's just wonderful. So let me ask you now, Cher, how about you, honey? What have you,
All right. Okay, Sharon, let me see if I can do this. Let me see if I can mute.
you don't have to, sweetie, because I know you don't feel good.
So Cher, you muted yourself, so we can't hear you anymore.
I got it. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Now we can.
Yes.
Okay, so, I don't know, you guys, I'm all over the place with my feelings and emotions. I really let the struggle go, but apparently I'm still in the struggle. So I feel like there's not much I can share. David and Sharon and Lynn know me, Lynn Johnson know me quite well. And I just want to say before I am so grateful to see Lynn Johnson and Sharon and that y'all are back in my life because, for the rest of y'all that we had a big political blow up, 2 years ago, and I haven't been in the room or talked to any course people in 2 years, and except for David and I kept talking, and it was so ridiculous to let politics,
Let me say this. We didn't do that because I can tell you I have no interest at all in politics. When the
I
ego,
don't either. Don't either.
When the ego comes in and we're not aware of it and we feed it, it becomes real.
Well, it became very real. And I was like, man, this is too much. We're all in here talking about love and light and, and we're all one.
Yeah.
And I love you too, Lynn. I mean, and now, but 2 years later, we've just come back into each other's lives after 2 years. And I'm so grateful because, what a world, and especially politics. So anyway, all I can say is my greatest thing is guilt demands punishment. And I really appreciated you saying that, Cindy, is because, guilt comes into my mind so much. And it is, I grew up in an abusive alcoholic Catholic family. And and I really appreciated Corrine. I think she was here last time, and she said she still practices her Catholic faith. And I married into a Christian family with my husband, and I'm still kind of practicing. We're kind of Methodist now, but I still kind of go there too, but it's okay. Because like Sharon, what you said, it's like it's all one, it's like, I get it. But okay, the only thing that's keeping me from getting what I want is I keep repeating the story, and I do get caught in the loop of my story. But I also feel like my nervous system is very dysregulated from the trauma. They all know my story of I'm still dealing with trauma. And I didn't even realize I was dealing with trauma when I first came in the room years ago with David and them. And they're like, well, rest in peace and let it go. And I'm like, I'm struggling with addiction. I'm a 63-year-old bulimic. And I just had I'm not proud of this, but I just had 2 weeks of binging in October, the last 2 weeks in October. And I'm like, really, I haven't gotten the lesson yet. So there's a punishment there, it's a guilt punishment thing. And I think I know one thing, I'm afraid to step into the power because, man, in this world, you step into your power and you say what you believe and bam. And I really don't want to get bammed anymore. I'm tired of bammed. We got enough bammed. And so, and I have a lot of anger, but I'm working with a girl that's helping me with the eating disorder. I've had so much therapy and so many things that I've done. And I'm back in my dysfunctional family with my mother, now 90 years old, who has Alzheimer's. So I'm back with my 4 brothers and my 1 sister that are really, in my opinion, still dealing with their unhealed trauma. And I'm like, I really don't want to be in this situation. I was telling my husband, I'm so ready to have my mother go. Bye.
Here's a suggestion. This is something that just didn't want to.
And that makes me feel guilty, by the way.
That's not going to work. But what does it have to do with me? That's something Ken Martnick would say over and over and over again. When your body hurts, just say, what does that have to do with me? Because you are the witnesser. Cher herself is just, you can't change an ego. You can maybe change it and get healthier, but ego is ego. It's going to be in duality. It's just that way. Maybe anybody can explain that better than me. Maybe Cindy, can you explain what I mean by that? Like, in other words, if she's just watching it, just watch Cher. You can watch her, because like I'm sitting here now, I can see Sharon's legs. I'm not Sharon. Sharon's just a character on the screen.
So you invited, is it okay, Cher, if I just respond?
Yeah.
So here's what I want to tell you. This is one of my mantras these days, which has created such a space in my life. I walk around, I go, Cindy's going to die and I am eternal. That's become my mantra.
Oh.
So Cindy dies, I am eternal. And what that means to me as I listen to you story is there's a story and there's drama and there's ups and downs and ins and outs. It has nothing to do with you, right? So you come into these rooms, whether you've done 12-step or you come in and out of A Course in Miracles or whatever you've done, every moment you spend even 5 minutes with Dove, it means that you're allowing more light into the world. It has nothing, it doesn't even matter whether or not your bulimia gets healed, because it's healing on some level that the personality will never understand. It doesn't matter if you die still thinking that you're guilty, because you're not. And every time you hang out in these rooms, a bird sings, like the work is working. It doesn't matter whether or not the part of you that thinks it's going to die, because the part of you that dies is literally just thought forms. So there's a whole bunch of thought forms. There's a whole bunch of stories that has constructed a storyline, but it's just a character, right? It doesn't matter if the character heals, because you've said yes to the truth. Otherwise you wouldn't be here now. You can't walk into a room like this unless a whole bunch of you is allowing God's love to flow into the world.
Thank you, Cindy.
That was
That's
so
beautiful.
beautiful. I love what you shared. Lynn, Atrino, tell me about you. Like, I've heard you before say that this book saved your life. So for you too, with Rest in God, do you use that as one of your mantras? You're not unmuted.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you so much for sharing. Oh, I love that. I rest in God. I could feel the warmth. And that's wonderful to feel loved.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
And to give up all the story. We all have the same mind. The ego is one mind. So our egos are crazy, That's why when you said that, Cher, we all have a mind that's crazy, and I still have ego. So I have an ego. So there you go. But, immersing yourself in these teachings, and Cindy's right, is the true self saying, I want to just bring light into this world.
I came from a 12-step program also. And that opened doors.
Yeah, it does. It's beautiful.
And then when the course, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
The same thing. Both divinity. And there's so much to, the core of most teachings are the same.
Yeah, they are. I mean, this one, it does say the world's not real, where the 12 steps doesn't. It doesn't go that far.
Yeah, it's.
Maybe it does, and I didn't, but
I never thought about that.
They go hand in here. They're good together, really. I mean, I don't do it anymore because with COVID, it just stopped. But anyway, I want to get Zuma, who's very consistent. I mean, you can listen to her on the radio of ACM Gather a lot. How about you? Do you like the lesson Rest in God?
I love the lesson I rest in God. For me, it's paragraph 4, which says, "This is the day of peace. You rest in God, and while the world is torn by winds of hate, your rest remains completely undisturbed." And it goes on, and it brings me to review lesson 1, which reminds me that I am peace, and that everything that's going on around me is just the stuff that's going on around me. One of the lessons reminds us that we live in God, and that we move in God, that we have our being in God, and those are words that I hold on to. I live in God. I have my being in God. I move in God, and I rest in God. We've been reading chapter 31 today in the deep dive, and I'd noticed, and I wasn't here when it was in there twice in this first section in paragraph 12. It says, "Let us be still an instant and forget all things we ever learned, all thoughts we had, and every preconception that we hold of what things mean and what their purpose is," and on like that. And then in the very next section, it turns right around again, and it says, "Be very still an instant. Come without all thought of what you ever learned before, and put aside all images you made." And of course, this reminds us of work 189, which again tells us to just be still and realize I don't have to do anything. I can just be still. And I was looking at the definition in the dictionary. One of the definitions of the word rest, it says to be placed or supported so as to stay in a specific position. Right there, to just rest, to just be, to realize that I just am, that I'm always supported. I am always supported. I am always supported. And it's funny that Dove has taken hold of the top of page 10, is what I always say, that spirit is in a state of grace forever, and my reality is only spirit, and therefore I am in a state of grace forever. I've been saying that for years. I grabbed a hold of that. That spirit, that I am spirit. I am spirit. I am what God is. And with that, I can just rest. It's like a constant exhale.
That's beautiful.
Wow. Wow.
That's just so beautiful. I love it. Thank you. And Myrna, how about you, love?
I rest in God. To me, it means I trust in God. Trust is the epitome of love, isn't it? So to rest in God is to have the trust that God has our back. God is there 24/7. And I see so many different aspects of that, so many miracles that occur. And I just really feel so blessed once we get it, and once we're able to exercise that trust, that belief, that total giving in, if you will, to spirit, and recognize that the ego is going to always thrust its ways to disrupt that. But my feeling is that, to recite that as an affirmation works. Any of the course's lessons, the title is an affirmation, and anything helps, anything that you recite. Resting God is a famous one. It is a wonderful one. I do love that as well. I love all the lessons. I do.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks, Myrna. I want to say that one of the things I just want to come back to, because I want Rafi and Regis to be able to, and I have Lynn, I don't want anybody to be left out. But the thing is, it really doesn't matter. The guilt that we feel if our body's sick, that's wasted time, because there is no us. We're just a movie figure on the screen. Anyway, I'm going to go with Lynn Johnson and then Lynn Artino, and then I'll come back to Rafi and then Regis. Go ahead, Lynn Johnson.
All right, so yeah, I just posted in the chat this from chapter 5, one of my very favorite sections, the decision for God, and I think what's happening and why it is that we continue to keep going back and back and back and back is because of guilt.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's because we experience guilt. So Jesus tells us in chapter 5, your part is merely to return your thinking to the point at which the error was made and give it over to the atonement in peace. Say this to yourself as sincerely as you can, remembering that the Holy Spirit will respond fully to your invitation. And this is what you say: I must have decided wrongly because I'm not at peace. I made the decision myself, but I can also decide otherwise. I want to decide otherwise because I want to be at peace. I do not feel guilty because the Holy Spirit will undo all of the consequences of my wrong decision if I will let Him. All the consequences, past, present, and future, gone. There's no reason to feel guilty because it's undone now. And so I choose to let Him by allowing Him to decide for God for me. And that is, I rest in God. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lynn Artino?
Sorry. Oh, what a wonderful meeting. Thank you, Sharon. I was just going to say the 12 steps were more purification.
Yeah, there's a lot of purification in the 12 steps. Yes, there are.
And I wrote a recent poem. Well, it's a prayer. It's more like a prayer. I like to read if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Let the love I am be through all, as core is known despite of pangs. Let essence be, as dark echoes come, pain of fear in search of power. Let trust and grace hold all in all, as truth is always in devotion.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That is so beautiful.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you.
It really is. Rafi, how about you? Do you have a favorite? Do you like the rest in God?
Do you like to rest in God?
No, do you like the lesson, rest in God? Listen,
Okay, I had to unmute. What I use is not that phrase, but what I use is more of just okay, to turn it over to the divine presence, being this God. What you can't really name it, but we know that it's the only truth, and know it'll be perfect. However, it turns out this whole whatever's going on in this universal dream is working for my benefit. If I see it as anything else, then I'm interpreting from an ego point of view. And as immediately I see that, I flip the switch and go right back to it's not me, but the Father that worketh through me. And since everything out there is just a reflection of my consciousness, and it's for my benefit, and even though it isn't, it's just an illusion, it's just a dream, it's still perfect. And so I constantly keep just turning everything over, turning over. Surrendering is another word for it. And everything does turn out perfect. Got a perfect example of that getting on this Zoom today. There was no way that I was going to get from where I was to here on time. It was impossible. But I stopped and I just turned it over and knew it would be perfect. And I got here at 4:30 on the dot. Okay. So, Les Levinson, the man who ran Sedona method, who invented and the release technique, always said the same thing. He said, keep turning it over, just keep surrendering, and it'll be perfect. And when Dove came up with TRUST, to rely upon spirit totally, that just was another one of those things that reinforced all of that.
beautiful. Thank you. And how about you, Regis?
And thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Let's see. So I guess my favorite paragraph would be paragraph 5. In him you have no cares and no concerns, no burdens, no anxiety, no pain, no fear of future, and no past regrets. In timelessness you rest, while time goes by without its touch upon you, for your rest can never change in any way at all. You rest today. As you close your eyes, sink into stillness, let these periods of rest and respite reassure your mind that all its frantic fantasies were but the dreams of fever that has passed away. Let it be still and thankfully accept its healing. No more fearful dreams will come now that you rest in God. That's just such a reality for me. So it really speaks to me. I feel that I rest because I recognize I am God. When I say I rest in God, probably because of my Western religious upbringing, it feels like God is somewhere else. So it doesn't resonate with me to say I rest in God, but I really feel I rest because I recognize the I am that I am. You know, and so
That's what you're saying. What Doug just shared. He said can't as a person rest in God because we're with the true self.
Yeah.
Here as God. Right? And there's nothing more beautiful. Dub, it's your room, back to you.
First of all, I want you to know that this has been a wonderful session. Thank you so much, Sharon. Very
Love you.
masterful. You truly included everyone, which just about brings up what I was going to.
You muted yourself,
You're
Doug.
muted. Yeah.
You muted.
I
Okay.
thought I was in Pal Talk for a minute.
Did you hear the first part of it? Yeah. Okay. So,
You're muted again.
You muted yourself again, Dove. Stop doing that.
Okay, I want to put this up. Suzanne de Kaiser and I were speaking together one evening. It was like yesterday, I think, and there's a line in the Course, one of the most famous lines. Enlightenment is a recognition, it's not a change. And one of my favorite lines is salvation is a collaborative venture, which means we're all in this together. Suzanne came up with, well, actually, what is it that we're recognizing? And she said, recognition of collaborative venture, that we're all in this together. If you look around the room, we're not only all in this together, but if you can expand that and recognize that everyone in this world, we're all in this together. That is enlightenment. That is enlightenment. That all the people that you think are on the other side or they're against me, nothing is against you. That brings up, what could you not accept if you but knew that everything that seems to happen, all events, past, present, and even to come, are gently planned by one whose only purpose is your good. So we are all in this together. I mean, everyone's in this together. The guys that
We're almighty companions.
yeah, the guys that you hate, they're in this together with you. You gotta laugh. You really gotta laugh.
Yeah, and it's just beautiful. Tonight, I just hope everybody just realizes that we are resting in God always.
Mhm.
And we are safe. And this is my mantra. I'm safe and nothing happened. And that just closes my ego up. That just shuts it up.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Yeah, but Lynn, go ahead, Lynn. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say, when I came into AA and the promises, we will not regret the past nor wish to close the door on it. And I was there, yeah, right. Beyond my wildest dreams.
I know, I know, I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
Okay,
beautiful.
we are just at that point, which is, we're at 8:30.
Thank
Does
you,
anyone
Ellen.
want to volunteer for next week? If not, you can get in touch with me during the week, but maybe someone wants to say yes now. I don't know. It's up to you. And if not, you always know how to get in touch with me. I'm here. And thank you so much for everyone joining in tonight. It has been a wonderful session.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Love you.
Okay.
Mwah. Love you.
I guess